Now, this is a deceptive hand when trying to categorize. It looks like a fire hand, but it's got some earthish qualities, so it's just about a long palm with certainly short fingers. So we've got a mixture of fire and earth as far as I'm concerned, but to dig a little deeper, to find a bit more clarity, this is certainly, as far as David Brandon Jones is concerned in his book, Practical Palmistry, I've actually got it right here, this is a mixture of both a dynamic and a practical hand. There's a lot here to suggest that this person is complex in nature, and there's a lot here about this person in their left hand in particular that shows this person has been through great change, serious turmoil, and has likely, I mean, when you look at this fate line here, this career line or Saturn line, it divides the palm in two. There's also a mole here when you look just down below on the reset, directly beneath the fate line itself. A mole like this creates some sort of poor luck, an obstacle. And over here, look at this rising line coming up from Luna here, creating resistance alongside the fate up until the age of mid to late teens. Essentially, this is a bad luck line. That's not what it's called. It's called a line of milieu, I believe, an environmental circumstance that causes an obstacle, an obstruction, resistance in this person's luck, unfortunately. However, after this spell, after this time, there appears to be almost always a sort of a burst of good luck, almost to make up for the misfortune that they've received. And when looking at this person's left hand, you can see the fate line is, yes, it still divides the palm in two, as though this person's destiny is somehow predetermined. When we look closer, the origin of it does creep from around underneath Luna, indicating this person's destiny was decided for them by their parents. And we've seen this in my Sunday case study where I looked at Nicolas Cage. His parents decided his career before he was even born. Now, there's lots here that you might be looking at, wondering yourselves what these things mean. I mean, look at the squares on this palm. They're just everywhere. Look at this one here. We've got another one up here. This is perhaps the most prominent and interesting and fate changing. And we've also got another down here. Two, in fact, look like a window or a sort of a kite. And then you've also got, and this one for me is one of the most interesting, right here. Again, which I've already touched on. So I'm going to talk about what these mean. First of all, I want to kind of get into this person's character a little bit more. I mean, we've got here someone who's very efficient. They are a deep thinker. Look how long this thumb is. It's almost level with the second phalanx of Jupiter. The thumb itself is very high up on the palm. The thumb, there's not much room for, I don't mean to sound cruel when I say this, but there's not much room for others. And there's good reason for this, because of what this person's gone through. When we go through traumatic events in our lives, it makes us look inwards. It changes how it changes our emotional framework, our psychological outlook. It changes everything about us. And it makes us look inwards. It makes us concentrate on the self to repair. It makes us say, well, okay, I need to look after number one now. And that's what's happened essentially with this person. And that's why we have this very sort of acute angle here. This thin thumb tip here does seem to suggest that this person has refined taste, certainly. But also this outward nature of the thumb shows that this person, it's difficult to describe, but I would say this person's willpower was somewhat weakened by the events that they've been through. However, you can see that the angle of the thumb, it doesn't seem to veer away as much on the right hand here. The Mercury finger is also longer on the right hand. And actually, after analyzing these images, you can see that, and you might not be able to see this yourself, but the Mercury finger is actually higher set on the right hand. The finger itself has actually moved up the hand. It's actually higher on the right hand than on the left. This is very unusual, and it shows that both these qualities about the thumb here and the little finger show how this person has inwardly developed over time, how they've grown from this one seemingly an alarmingly impactful and life-changing event. It shows how they've grown over time, how they've moved through this. I don't want to say past this because it's always going to be with them. It's always a part of them. But it has changed them. But they've changed themselves in such a way. They've really grown from this awful experience. They've grown confidence. They've grown an ability to express themselves, and that's probably helped with this. And you notice that the Mercury and Jupiter is a little bit on the pointed side, and this shows someone who's able to articulate and teach others, pass information on, someone who enjoys doing this as well. Jupiter is a little bit higher set than the rest of the fingers, and that shows overall this person is a bit of a born leader, and they have huge amounts of drive. I mean, the lifeline itself, the headline, they both start very high up. The thumb itself starts very high up. The thumb is very strong. It's dominant. There's a lot of dominance about this person. I think they can be a little bit of a tyrant, in fact. And in relationships, they probably struggle because if they find a weak partner, they'll end up despising them. And someone who's quite sort of equally dominant, then they're going to find lots of friction in their relationship. So they probably struggle to find a partner that is suitable. And I think they need someone who's equally as strong as them, or stronger, someone who's highly emotionally intelligent, but also very, very diplomatic. This person has an abundance of ideas. The headline reaches and branches outwards, nice and low into Luna. And their ideas here, their logic is strong. They have an excellent ability to come up with ideas. There may be some difficulty with following through with them, though. Where I think this person is at in their lives right now is a bit of a tricky one for me, because I feel as though they are potentially depressed. I don't know. I might be wrong about that. But the headline appears to be thinning, ending up quite low down on Luna on the right hand, whereas on the left it's a little bit higher and it forks. There seems to be more optimism on the left. So when the headline veers a little bit too low into Luna, and I wouldn't say this is too low, although there is a bit of a danger of depression here and poor mental health, it looks as though the mind searches in areas that are unrealistic. Fantasy, dreams, imagination, that's what Luna represents. So when the mind dips too low into this area, it can lead to, at worst, suicidal tendencies. There is also a break in the headline, and this occurs for this person in their late 20s, perhaps early 30s. I know that's vague, but it's confusing for me because there are two major sort of events here, and I think they're one and the same. I think this person required a bit of support at this time. I think this person's partner had, I think there's a divorce here, late 20s, early 30s. So I'm going to say around from the age of 28 to 32, something like that. I think this person really suffered at this time. But before all of that, I mean, there are two major events for me in this person's life, or actually, potentially three. And there are two elephants in the room when it comes to this person's palm, and they're both on the left because they impact this person just emotionally and psychologically so much. All areas of their life, in fact. And we can see it here on the lifeline. This is elephant number 1, and you can see it from a distance, even just looking at it there. But look at it. It's not even an island. It's almost a circle. A circle like this on the lifeline. I mean, I'm not entirely certain. It is said in Indian palmistry, a circle on the lifeline represents blindness. I don't think that's necessarily true. I would look for corroboration underneath the heartline here. I would look for an island here as well to corroborate that. I don't see that. I think that this is something else because of other signs here tied to it. I mean, a circle is a bit more ominous. It's a bit more evil. There's a bit more, it's not just an obstruction of a flow of energy, of a flow of events, of circumstances, environment. No, this is something a lot more nefarious, and there's anger related to it. There's also a need to rise and pull themselves out of this situation, an ambition there to change the situation and make things better for themselves. And also, in terms of ambition, I mean, look at this. You can just about see that I'm thinking here, because what I mentioned before about a lacking of confidence, you can see that the life and the headline are tied for such a long period of time, and that also coincides with this overcautiousness. But just getting back to what I was saying, you've got this life, that was a terrible example, this lifeline here, and this rising up, an ambition line here that rises up of it, and also from this awful and traumatic episode in their life. And this episode right here, it really changes who they are. It changes absolutely everything about them. And this is why we've got this divide in the heartline. We've got a very straight heartline. We've got someone here who they find it very difficult to open up to others. They may well be a good listener themselves, but they're not necessarily, they keep their cards close to their chest. And it's difficult for this person to love, I think. And that's probably because of this event right here. And it coincides with this square of protection right here. And that's because we've got here a matriarch line. We've got here an influence line coming in from, I mean, this is Venus, the place of family and love and relationship stability. And here we have what looks like a very good friend or close friend of the family, perhaps a female role model, an auntie perhaps, or maybe it's their mother. And both these lines here are linked, and we've got here, it forms a square on the fate line early on at the age of this time right here. So it corroborates, it coincides with this event right here. And after this event, this person is not out of the woods because they are in turmoil from what's happened to them. They need to process. And I think that this person still needs to process what's happened. This is a life-changing and awful event. I'm not going to say what this is. I know what this is, but I don't think it's helpful or respectful. And, this here is either depression or just an extremely difficult period of poor mental health. This person processed and came out of the other side a much stronger individual. And I'm almost amazed when I look at this palmist, what this person's gone through and how they've managed to just get out of the other side as strong as they are and as changed as they are. So there's a lot going on here, and this event right here is different. This is a third event that occurs in their life. This event right here is what I was saying earlier about late 20s, divorce perhaps. But this event right here, which, creates this island it's connected to this here, and it's sort of not fully formed, this change, a dramatic change in this person's life. It's linked to, it's all linked to this first event here. It's bridged by this here. It's almost as though there's a delayed reaction. Um, we've got a gap here as well. I believe this person's, yeah, I think this person had an estranged relationship with their father, likely due to this event here. It could be because of inaction or directly related to these events. And I think that this right here is their father passing away. Now, when we have unfinished business with our fathers, it can be extremely painful when they pass away, not because we love and miss them, but because of unfinished business, things unsaid, because we were never able to process, we were never able to gain that closure that we need for ourselves and make them understand how certain things felt. And I think when we go through traumatic things that are related to our fathers, and we kind of bury it and say to ourselves on some unconscious level, well, I'll deal with this when the time arises, and then they pass away, it kind of opens up old wounds. And I think that's what might be what happening here. Also, I think this person's father dying, and I could be wrong about all this, of course, has there's inheritance here, but it's bittersweet because of the things I've just said. So we have a lot going on here. We have potential abuse, potentially. We have divorce, and we have inheritance related to this person's father passing away. We have here great protection at an early age in this person's life. But let's forget all that, because let's focus on this person's future. I have no idea how old this person is. So I've just reread their email. They want to know about their future, their health and relationships. It's difficult, particularly as I don't know their age. But I can say that at the age of around about 60, their career, their fate line, it changes course completely. We've got a complete change here. And this is probably some sort of karmic year. Let's try and be a bit more accurate. So deceptive, because looking at this, I thought differently until I realized the lines veer away from each other. So here we have the heart line. Notice how it rises up towards Saturn sharply like this. And this again shows this person focusing on themselves. And, as I say, when we go through difficult things, it does make us, the need there to focus on rebuilding is strong. Sure, nothing wrong with that. However, there comes a point in our lives when we need to allow others in. We need to focus on those around us and consider others more. And in doing so, we might be able to mend part of ourselves as well. So here is this heart line that reaches upwards towards Saturn, and it shows this more sort of self-centered nature. And I don't mean that in necessarily a bad way. You can be self-centered and still be generous. This is someone a bit more concerned with themselves, emotionally speaking. It's very difficult for this person because of the things they've been through. And their fate line, it rises and curves off towards Jupiter. And at first I thought, well, the heart line is doing this and the fate line is doing this. And perhaps there's a bit of both going on here. But when you look a bit closer, you can see that this is actually happening. And it shows that actually that's key, because it shows that at the age of about 55, I was looking for more accuracy here, and I wanted to look at the right hand to see how things change for this person physically, materialistically, practically. And we see that at the age of around about 55, and this person's path turns to more towards an area where they look towards influencing others more. This is a role that they are much more suited towards. It's a role of judgment and authority, and I don't know what it is. I'm trying to look. I'm looking at this hand, and I'm struggling here to find out what this person's career role is. But it's certainly fast-paced, and I think they will be in some sort of teaching role. And here's another square, teacher square on Jupiter. It's hard for me to say. I think this person is non-stop, and there is some threat of adrenal burnout because of that. I don't think this person cares all that much about money. I do think money comes to them. As I say, they will inherit some money, but there may be some um, issue here. There seems to be a somewhat of an island here, trying to disrupt this flow of happiness, this inheritance. So I think I want this person to be careful around financial matters um, around about the age of 60 onwards. Let's see, 65 onwards. I want them to be careful around family financial matters around this time, because there may be someone in this person's life close to them who is trying to sabotage in that area for their own personal gain. And I don't see this person as being gullible or naive at all. This is someone, be very difficult to pull the wool over their eyes. It might not be someone close to them trying to manipulate them in that way. It might just be that a plan or something in action could go wrong in that way, and it's related to someone close to home, so it could be entirely accidental. In any case, I want this person to take care in terms of financial matters at the age of around about 65. In terms of health, this person is much healthier than they once were, and as I say, this is likely due to how they have processed and decided to react to the things that have happened to them. Physically speaking, I don't have any concerns other than the potential for adrenal burnout, so I want this person not to work too hard. Physically speaking, I think they're okay. Psychologically, I think there's still some unpacking left to do for this person, and therapy might be useful. Therapy, it's a bit like when it comes to opening, well, I don't want to say opening old wounds, it's a bit like resetting a broken bone. It's hard work, takes a long time. You have to put the effort in, but in the long run, it's for the better, and that's what this person could well do with. Now, this massive square up here, formed from the lifeline, the change lines from the Venus area, through these events that have happened, this divorce and the potential loss of a father figure. I'm kind of grasping at straws a little bit with that one. It's developed, the convergence of lines has developed a square, and that's because of the need for emotional support this time. And I believe that they have that. There are at least two very strong friends or family members in this person's life that support them. And the square down here, I mean, really, if you look closely, there are lots of squares, but there are significant squares here that lie dormant at the end of this person's life, and it shows, I mean, it's not significant to sort of show when this person dies. I'm not going to get into that, but it shows that this person is hiding things, has secrets, and again, it might be best to talk to someone impartial, a professional, about these things to get them off their chest, to release this energy, because it could be weighing down on them. As I say, I don't know what the age this person is, but when we look at the relationship lines here, the latter one, that is the higher one up on the palm, shows a much happier union as the one before it, and pulls this person down towards the heart line. And it shows how the relationship itself drags this person down. There It shows how the emotions are kind of almost pulling it down. It shows how they're being pulled down. If there's a burden there anyway, and it wasn't perhaps all that. It could be that actually that they were, the memory of that relationship is now a little bit sour. Interestingly, on the left hand, we see that mid-30s relationship there, at least for children, or the possibility for it. And then on the right hand, we see two relationships, and the second is much, much stronger. So it shows here, this happiness, well-deserved happiness, much needed happiness. So I think this person went from working, or at least had some sort of predestined future around their career. And I think now they've broken away from that, potentially. And it looks almost as though they've come full circle in that way. Almost literally. As you see, the fate line here, well, actually, it's more like this here. It comes from around Venus. It's sort of parallel with the lifeline. It's tough to read, I've got to say. It sort of looks like the lifeline is doing this and the fate line is doing that. That could be the case. If that is the case, it's possible this person works in their family business, a lively business, one that requires a lot of physical energy. And they've kind of come away from it and made something of their own life. They've decided not necessarily to continue working in that business. In any case, the career, the fate line, reaching around up and towards Jupiter's place of dominance and judgment and authority and decision making, it shows how this person has risen just as they always wanted to. When you see these ambition lines here up on Jupiter, they wanted to remove themselves from this scenario, change their lives for the better. They wanted something different for themselves, and we see just how that's happened on the right hand. I mean, these palms are just two very different stories. And also that indicates that this person's parents were two polar opposite people. I think they were very, very different people. This is an incredibly difficult read for me, and I've probably gotten a few things drastically wrong here, but we'll see from their feedback. So that's about it for this reading. I hope you've learned from this, and if you've got any thoughts or comments, let me know in the section below, in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.